So, my dear, you want to work on my milk farm, hmm?
Are you the Dr. Junks, Professor of Milk?
The same.
Oh, it would be an honor to squirt for you.
Oh, well.
How do you serve a good pork butt?
High side, high side.
I said, how do you serve a good pork butt?
Left to right, left to right.
Well, if you don't know what's what about a good pork butt, then take a seat and listen to me.
Alright, we've talked about the boy genius, we've tackled the Bravo smear campaign, and now we've made it to everyone's favorite pair of barnyard critters. And while a lot of people just think of this show as one of the better gross-out shows of the 90s, today I want to go over why Cow and Chicken might just be Cartoon Network's most important show after Dexter.
What are you, blind as well as large?
I'm not kidding. I feel like this stupid little cartoon about naked people in meat products
Please, no meat touching, man.
did a lot to help turn Cartoon Network into the powerhouse it is today. What's yesterday? So get ready to hear me talk about butts even more than usual, as we dive into the show that really helped me get crabs. The Warthog. I'm your host and weenie marine, D'Angelo Edwards, and today I'm taking my hat off to Cow and Chicken.
It goes ba-bum, ba-bum, bum, click, bum, ba-bum, ba-bum, bum, click, bum.
We need more bad guys to smash.
Bum, click, bum. I be Lord of the Rings, I manifest. Represent from the den, I don't wear no vest. I got a heart in my chest, it goes ba-bum, ba-bum. I sway halfway, the day's hump, get over. I be Lord of the Rings, I manifest.
I'll put a shot to your
sister. I don't wear no vest. I got a heart in my chest, it goes ba-bum, ba-bum. I sway halfway, the day's hump, get over. One out the ring, so now you got.
Today, a man married himself.
I do.
And I've always wanted to do...
This! Look at me! I'm wearing a weenie suit!
As always, let's start with the man behind the cartoon, David Feiss.
Who are you?
He had a fairly normal childhood, spending most of his time drawing with his cousin, Sam Keith. And if that name sounds familiar, he's the guy behind The Max, a really cool comic that went on to be adapted into one of my favorite MTV shows.
Only I can see that the secret which unites them could destroy them. I could be helpful. Screw it. I think I'll have some fun with them first.
Seriously, if you haven't checked it out yet, go for it. It's so surreal and interesting, and I love the dirty style he uses. Also, Julie's there, and yeah, that's pretty cool too.
Make it dirty.
Feist actually helped Sam with the comic, but I'm gonna move on before this becomes a Max video. Anyway, David continued to pursue art, getting into oil painting in high school. However, his true love was animation, and he began making short films with an old 8mm his parents had lying around. The only problem with this was that all of the films he made were silent, since the camera didn't have any sound. And since this was 1970 and not 1920, he thought that companies wouldn't take his movies seriously if they couldn't even hear them.
Call you back, 1930s. And hey, watch out for that Adolf Hitler. He's a bad egg.
So David rushed out to buy a brand new Super 8, and with that, he made his first ever movie with sound, a cartoon set to the Beatles song Maxwell's Silver Hammer.
No, too fancy.
And what happened next would change his life forever.
My aunt knew that I wanted to work in the industry, and she happened to have an acquaintance who knew somebody who worked at Hanna-Barbera. So she made arrangements so that I would go to Hanna-Barbera and meet the recruiter, and brought my projector, projected it on the wall. He called Iwo Takamoto, who was like the main designer and creative force at Hanna-Barbera at the time. He was the guy that created Scooby-Doo. And he called him in, I showed him my movie, and he said, well, we should hire him. And it was a surprise, but they hired me that day. And within a week, I believe, they brought me down from Northern California, and I was working.
At only 19 years old, David Feiss was the youngest person to ever work for Hanna-Barbera. He couldn't even drink yet and he was already rubbing elbows with Yogi. The fact that society trusts him with a cartoon and not a beverage makes you think, why are all the early Cartoon Network dudes so crazy? Maybe people are just lazy now and that's why they can't find any jobs. Let me just check on the state of the industry and oh, yeah, no, things are bad. After getting hired at Hanna-Barbera, he was mentored by Ken Mundy, a guy who's done everything from TV show intros to Saturday morning cartoons. Most people will recognize his work from westerns like Rawhide and the Wild Wild West, but I was shocked to find out that he did the crazy looking Fat Albert special that was recently found. This thing is unhinged.
I fear no man, but that thing, it scares me.
Looking at his body of work, it's not too hard to see how much of an influence he had on David Feiss, and in turn, Cow and Chicken. So David continued his career. His first job was helping to animate the title sequence for Chomps, one of the few live-action movies that Hanna-Barbera did back then. From there, he bounced around from project to project, working on some pretty big names like Heavy Metal and The Jetsons, both the 80s episodes and the movie. He even did some scenes on the Chipmunk Adventure. I mostly just mentioned that so Tariq could finish. He even helped out on Ren and Stimpy, working closely with, hold on, let me crack a window, John Kay.
Ah, sick!
I don't know if they still talk, but if I were David, I'd leave that unlabeled can firmly closed. Anyway, even though David was getting plenty of work, he was a little sad about the quality of animation that was being put out in the 70s and 80s, and he desperately wanted more control, and to tell the stories that he wanted to tell. So it's a really good thing that he was about to receive a very important phone call from Hanna-Barbera.
My next contestant is Gendy Tartakovsky. Tell us about your cartoon.
Yeah, Dexter is a boy genius, and
roll it.
We've talked about this a lot, so here's the clip notes. In 1995, Cartoon Network aired the world premiere Tune-In, a special episode of Space Ghost that showed off several new pilots that all had a shot at becoming full shows. It's honestly one of my favorite episodes of Space Ghost, please check it out. He was talking to everyone there crazy.
Talk to me, Patty baby.
Hello, and my name is Pat Ventura.
Hello, and my name is Pat Ventura.
Directing category, council gives. Ooh, sliding.
But this all led to the creation of the What a Cartoon Show, a show specifically made to showcase all the pilots. And it was exactly what Hanna-Barbera was calling David for. They wanted him to pitch a pilot with the hopes of it one day becoming a full series, so David decided to pitch Cow and Chicken. Originally starting off as a bedtime story he used to tell his daughter, he based the two characters on both his kids and his own childhood. His daughter liked the story so much, he immediately went to go make a storybook for it. The book was a little different though. They weren't siblings and the red guy wasn't even part of the story yet. He actually came to Feiss in a dream, dialogue and all. Though why he was having dreams of an extra caked up devil, I will never know.
Because I have thoughts of men!
All of this came together in the first ever Cow and Chicken short, titled No Smoking. I don't remember watching this as a kid, which is weird because I used to watch the What a Cartoon Show all the time, but after seeing it for the first time, I think, the first thing that really jumps out to me is how gorgeous it is. The fluid animation, the shading, the composition, it feels like a theatrical short. Gives me the same vibes as that random cat dog short they played before the Rugrats movie. David Feiss basically animated the whole thing by himself too, with Pilar Menendez, his wife at the time, and Sam joining in to help with the story, and Dean Taylor, the art director for Nightmare Before Christmas, taking that role here. But what's even crazier is that dude was holding down 2 jobs at the time. During the day, he was animating on All Dogs Go to Heaven 2, a hood classic, and at night he was putting this together. We're lucky we even got the pilot. How did this dude not drop dead on the spot? Go check on your creative friends, we are not okay. Besides the gorgeous animation, the plot is basically your standard Cow and Chicken plot. Cow and Chicken are just goofing around until the devil shows up and starts tempting Chicken with cigarettes. Then he kidnaps him and hijinks ensue. Oh yeah, that's right, the red guy was known as the devil. This is one of the few things that had to be changed for the full show. Apparently a naked red dude walking around tormenting kids is fair game, but the minute you mention the devil, that's when pros start to get clutched. But Satan aside, the short was popular, only losing to Johnny Bravo in votes. So it was decided that Cow and Chicken would be the third cartoon.
Pardon my feathers. It's called a waddle.
Now every heifer, every cow, hold tight to your udders now. Farmer Brown is bedding down, let's turn this barn to funky town. Chickens on the left, dance if you're able. Hogs don't slobber on the pool table. Try to go easy on the manure, it's a dance floor, not a sewer.
So, full transparency, even though I grew up with Cow and Chicken, I didn't really watch it that much until I was older. I kinda wasn't allowed. I don't know, having the devil in every episode didn't really inspire confidence in my very Catholic house.
Thanks, Satan.
I did sneak a few here and there though. I have fond memories of Sail Cat and that one episode where Chicken got stuck in a video game.
Kick the can! Kick the can! Kick the can! How's about kick the turtle? Kick the turtle!
Eventually, I did watch a bunch on Boomerang though, once the heat had died down. So going through all this for the video was the first time I saw the show all the way through. Now, do I recommend binging Cow and Chicken? Well, do you want to be chained so deeply that you barely recognize yourself in the mirror? If the answer is no, don't worry, I did it for you. So let's get into it. Cow and Chicken follows the brother-sister duo as they navigate through the insane world they inhabit. Though, to be honest, the two of them are kinda built for it. Speaking of, these two were brought to life by Charlie Adler, best known as the voice of Buster Bunny from Tiny Toons. Also best known for looking like an actual Greek god. How does this voice come out of that? Back when David was holding auditions for all the voice roles, Charlie came in for Cow, Chicken, and the red guy. There was a little pushback at first, because Cartoon Network didn't want just one guy doing everything, but considering that he was the best at all three out of everyone else there, and David brought up the fact that Mel Blanc voiced everyone under the sun, the network agreed to let him take on the roles.
Patrick Amin said he said that.
And man, am I glad they did, because these characters would not be the same without these voices. He made Chicken into this smart aleck fake tough guy that cracks me up.
You guys come here often?
Most of the trouble he ends up in is usually his fault. Either him trying to get rich quick or prove that he's a man. Luckily, whenever he's in a jam though, he has Cow to bail him out. Cow's the exact opposite of Chicken in every way, and I'm not just talking about size. She's a sweet girl who's usually busy playing with her dolls or finding new ways to annoy Chicken. Seriously, there's sibling annoyance and then there's just straight up harassment. I'll let you guess what side she falls on.
Mom, may I please kill Cow?
Luckily, in case she and Chicken bite off more than they can chew, she has the ability to turn into Super Cow. By wearing her magic blanket, she gets your standard superhero cocktail of powers, along with the uncanny ability to speak Spanish. That's a way easier way to learn Spanish. All I had was the DC public school system and reruns of JJ on Telemundo.
JJ, el avioncito.
Soy yo!
Besides the main duo, you have plenty of characters to flesh out the world, like their insane parents, only known as Mom and Dad. They might be the craziest pair of adults I've ever seen in a kid's cartoon.
Son, some of the happiest days of my youth were spent in bathrooms. I could tell you stories.
Dad, could I go now?
For the entire run of the show, you only ever see them from the legs down. No matter what they do, it's just the feet you see. You usually have to pay extra for that. In the pilot, you actually find out that they are only just legs, though this is never really brought up in the actual show. The closest thing we get to a face reveal is Chicken pulling out an old science project that looks like they're missing halves. You also have Flynn and Earl, Chicken's best friends. Nothing much to really say about them, though I always found it weird how down bad they were for Cow.
I love cow! Me too.
Furries? Like gift stuff? No judgment.
A character I really grew to like was their cousin Boneless Chicken, and that's not just his name, that's his life. He's always getting tossed around by the kids while retaining his classic deadpan humor. He even gets in a lot of the jokes that tended to go over my head as a kid.
Oh, great. My one chance to fly, and I went into a dragon kite, flown by a bunch of us sweet paste people.
Speaking of that, this show was raunchy, even for the 90s. Maybe my mom was right for not letting me watch this. Some of the things they do and say are a little too much for younger children. Of course, the most famous example of this is the banned episode Buffalo Gals. This episode was pulled off the air for containing multiple cases of lesbian undertones. Though to be fair, there was nothing under about these tones.
We're the Buffalo Gals!
Oh, the Buffalo Gals! A motorcycle riding gang that randomly bursts into people's homes and chews on their carpets.
That's not even good.
While originally, the episode was just supposed to be about a group of biker chicks taking Cow under their wing, David added in all the stuff that ended up getting the episode banned. He has since apologized and said that he might have gone a little too far in an effort to be funny. But back to the characters, there's a big red one I haven't mentioned yet.
Canada's funniest home videos. I love this show. Hello, it's me, Lance Sackless. Here's tonight's semi-finalist video.
The red guy is the main antagonist of Cow and Chicken. Barring a few bullies here and there, he's gonna be the main one wreaking havoc, all while showing off his impressive assets.
Damn, back that ass up, bitch!
One of my favorite aspects of the character is that he never just appears as himself. There's always a new disguise with a cheeky fake name.
Allow me to introduce myself. Irving J. Slacks Off. The distinguished TV journalist, Geraldo Rear Viewer.
Hello! It's me, the director, Ivan Pants. Could you tell?
Sheesh. Charlie Adler also gives his all here. I love how he puts emphasis on the weirdest parts of his lines. All the voice actors do great here. Besides Charlie Adler, you have veteran voice actors like D. Bradley Baker, Dan Castellaneta, Candy Milo, and Howard Morris. I can't believe the same guy who voiced Flem is the one who sung that one Jetson song Boomerang used to play all the time.
That means I love you.
But besides the voice acting, the show looks pretty good too. While not as fluid as the pilot, because come on man, look at that thing. You think they had the budget to make 4 seasons of that? It still looks pretty good. I especially love the backgrounds. The dirty, sketchy style with the surreal colors and shapes really helps make the characters pop. And there's just so much texture to the world. You can see the grain everywhere. The characters themselves are drawn with way thinner lines compared to Dexter and Johnny, and all the wonky proportions gives this show a really unique identity. Earlier I mentioned that I consider this to be the most important cartoon after Dexter, and honestly, I mean it. And it's all because of how this show looks. Follow me now. Up until this point, Hanna-Barbera, and by extension Cartoon Network, kind of felt like it had a house style. I'm not saying that every show looked the same, but there was a cohesion there. Thick outlines, flat design, even the newer stuff like SWAT Cats and Two Stupid Dogs really felt like an evolution of the Hanna-Barbera style. Not saying it's a bad thing, just something I noticed. Heck, Dexter and Johnny were so far into their HB roots, they had full episodes with the old characters. So when Cow and Chicken came along, it really felt like they opened the doors to really push for unique art styles. While it's not hard to tell that Cartoon Network really just wanted a Ren and Stimpy clone, it doesn't change the fact that they were actually willing to experiment. And I honestly think that this show looking the way it did led to a massive shakeup in the industry. I mean, not long after Cow and Chicken, we got Mike, Lou and Og, Ed, Ed and Eddie, and Courage the Cowardly Dog. All shows with such strong personalities and voices. This was even one of Maxwell Adams' first job in the industry, and just look at how Billy and Mandy turned out. That thing is dripping in Cow. And I genuinely believe that we have this show to thank for that. They leaned into it too. There were tons of bumpers and stuff for the show. This wasn't just a spray and pray, they had faith in this thing.
There's a space reserved for Papa Smurf.
Bloody freaking duh.
Wise Papa Smurf, corrupted by his own power. Can no leader go undated?
You need to take it down a notch.
Luckily, it was a different time back then, and we got a full 4 seasons. Also, I usually go over the changes between seasons, but for the most part, this thing is the same from start to finish, aside for some streamlining here and there. Still, I think I have a brand new appreciation for this super gross show. But don't just take my word for it, even though it's the only one that matters. I asked my buddy Man of 1,000 Thoughts to spare a few of those for Cow and Chicken. So go ahead, nerd.
Look, I'm stirring some controversy.
Oh my god, why'd I let this guy talk?
Cow and Chicken is far better than Ren and Stimpy. Live with that. Now, this was a show that was unashamed to be stupid and gross. But the best thing was that it understood how to do it. There's this stigma against gross out comedy, which makes sense. Niggas take things too far with butt, vomit, and pee jokes to the point that it's like, ugh. Most of these gags you see in the media makes you want to gag. They follow the rule of gross is funny by default, but it's not. The reaction is where the comedy comes from. You laugh at the over-the-top faces and noises the characters make because they're an exaggeration of what you would do. There's relatability to this shit. The funny faces or sounds characters would make is either an exaggeration of what you would do or exactly what you would do. You know which one you are. The type of funny faces this show came up with almost competes with Ed, Ed and Eddie. Argue with D'Angelo on that. Seriously, the sound effects helps make the comedy effective by a lot, which is needed with how much gross out is in this. Just goes to show how a good fake drawing can invoke real feelings. Real gross feelings. But with every gross out joke comes a clever one, and some dirty ones like the one with Cow stuffing her horns. There's so many adult jokes in this that it honestly makes you miss that style of humor. It sucks it can't be pulled off today since the internet exists, but enough about feeling old. Cow and Chicken's dynamic is a fun one. It's that typical grumpy older brother, annoying sister trope, but the thing here is Cow's annoyingness is turned up because she's a cow, mainly because of her udders constantly touching on Chicken, or that she leans on Chicken knowing damn well he can't support her. She just disturbs this man's personal space like it's her job. It's such a weird and out there concept, but damn it, it manages to work. That's all you could say. But the dynamic between them is not the only type of beef they got. The red guy gotta be top 5 animated haters. This man plans his day out just to fuck with Cow and Chicken. Dude is the ultimate hater. Kendrick wishes he could hate like this man. I know many hate gross out jokes, and I can even admit this show wouldn't work in this day and age, but I still feel it had something to it. It knew how to play the gross jokes so they're effective in getting across a disgusted emotion, and it's usually done to someone that deserves it. Usually. It's not the greatest cartoon series out of the bunch, but Cow and Chicken made a legacy for itself that deserves its flowers.
Now get out of here!
So yeah, that's basically all my thoughts about Cow and Chicken. Nothing to really go too super deep on. I can hyper-analyze a twerking scene for the emotional core, but I draw the line at pork butts and taters. Still, it was really cool checking it out again, but we're not quite done yet. We've still got to talk about the middle cartoon, and luckily, we're not going to need pants to do it. We'll get into I Am Weasel right after this break.
I am Weasel.
Like the other 2 shows before it, Cartoon Network also asked David to create a middle cartoon to go in between 2 7-minute Cow and Chicken episodes. So while sketching, he came up with a Weasel character. and wrote I Am Weasel over it, taking it from one of his favorite books, I Am Legend. And yeah, I can see the similarities.
Every single person that you or I has ever known is dead!
Weasel would be the protagonist, but David still needed a foil, so borrowing from the classic nursery rhyme, which would also go on to be the show's theme, he drew up a monkey, before quickly turning it into a baboon, because of the big red butt, which we definitely didn't already have enough of. Unlike I Am Weasel, who would be hyper-competent and altruistic to a fault, IR Baboon would be lazy, selfish, and always try to get the better of his small furry foe. All this came together to form I Am Weasel, and it was pretty good. Charlie Adler was back as IR, but for Weasel, they decided to cast Michael Dorn, who's best known for his role as Worf in Star Trek. But to me, he'll always be Steel from Superman the Animated Series. He does a great job here too. I never thought someone voicing a weasel would go so hard.
Now, by merely remaining silent, I could be rid of him forever. No, it is a sin to think thusly.
Dude is so cool, I can't tell if I want to be him or be with him.
Holy Lord, why is your body so perfect? What's that for? To think this whole time I've been jacking off to the wrong person. No offense, young.
And he plays off Charlie really well, who makes Baboon this insufferable idiot that you still kinda like.
Why always him get leading part with beautiful actress? I swear on the stack of mothers, I find way for to star on movie!
While in the earlier episodes, Weasel and Baboon were portrayed more as rivals, with Baboon constantly trying to get the upper hand, as the show went on, they were turned more into frenemies. This also opened up the door to make Weasel less perfect and take a few shots at him. Both have their merits, but I do think I prefer them being enemies. It's just a little funnier. But really, it barely changed. Eventually, however, Cartoon Network decided to spin I Am Weasel off into its own show. So instead of 2 cow and chickens and 1 weasel, both shows would now have 3 different shorts in them. This got a little confusing though, because they only made about 1 new season of Weasel. So they basically just hit shuffle on all the shorts, and every time they aired an episode, it would be a random 3. Something cool that came out of Weasel getting its own show was that they started to use the red guy in it, and that led to some of the wildest jokes in the show.
Egads, I had no idea the asp problem was this big.
Oh yeah, come on, come on now! Please! I am not a piece of meat!
It also kind of bridged the gap between the 2 shows because they eventually just had a full crossover, with all the characters finally interacting with each other. It's a good watch, it has one of my favorite Weasel lines.
Then the weasel went, pop! Goes me. Pie. I'm a big fan of pie.
Overall, I Am Weasel was a pretty good add-on to the show, with some people even preferring it. And I won't lie, Weasel kinda left his mark on the network. But I'm all weaseled out, so let's wrap this up.
Yes, sirree. There's nothing quite like a nice big fresh hot bucket of asp milk.
It's good to be ugly after all. Now we can see it's true.
Cow and Chicken is definitely a product of its time, but I think it was just the kick in the pants Cartoon Network needed to really start experimenting, and it was a hit. Sure, it was a little too gross and a little too adult sometimes, but it was cool to see David finally get that chance he wanted to flex his muscles as an artist. And the dude never stopped making stuff. He went on to do work on the long-running open season series, Hotel Transylvania, Dave the Barbarian, and I don't think he would have gone so far if he didn't have such a strong voice in his art. It's nasty and immature, but it's also funny and deeply personal to him and his crew. And people resonated with that, and they still love Cow and Chicken today. It really goes to show that people will always flock to stuff like that, because all that grime and dirt in the right hands just makes it all the more charming, warts and all. Sometimes, it really is good to be ugly after all.